Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here on the Carsy Show. For today, I would like to go over my take on the Hero deck profile of 2023. As any of us who have played Hero from the past 2 to 3 years, we all recognize and understand that the Hero deck is not the best deck to play. But it is the most fun. It is nostalgic for a lot of us who watched the show and enjoyed it growing up. But over the years, it has nonetheless been tough and hard to be competitive in the tournament world and just outright recreational use in general. But for my take here today, I feel like I have, over the years, sort of perfected the deck profile to its most survivability and competitiveness. Alright, as you can see here, you can see my cool little field center that I like to play with. As you can probably guess, with it being in DPE, that is going to be one of the two cards that this deck is going to be based off of. First and foremost, we're going to start out with the Destiny Heroes. Only 3 cards in this section here. 2 copies of the Destiny Hero Malicious. Only used for a couple things, really. One, he is able to banish himself from graveyard to special summon the other copy. And then the other part that is great about Malicious, whether being out on the field or in the graveyard, his ability to be a level 6 monster and is a part of the other half of the requirements for your 2 to 3 big baddies I have here in the extra deck. And then lastly, for Destiny Hero Plasma, very key critical card that I would hear a debate about running 2 copies of, but I run 1, with Destiny Hero Plasma being very abject pinnacle cornerstone of this deck. The fact that he could be a boss monster just as a regular warrior effect monster without being fusion summoned is very awesome and cool to see. Potential board clearing and getting rid of your opponent's big bad monster that isn't destroyed by battle or card effects. Just simply equip to him, he gains half that attack, and getting rid of your big bad, your opponent's big bad. Moving on to the Evil Hero section. First, we'll have 1 copy of Evil Hero Malicious Edge. A pretty cool card. The fact that he is a level 7 with 2600 attack. His effect being you only need to attribute 1 in order to special summon this guy out there on the field. And as well as if he attacks a defensive position monster, inflict piercing damage. The other is Sinister Necrom. Very cool card to have. When you dump him to your graveyard, you banish him to special summon 1 Evil Hero monster from your hand or deck, so leaving it open, which would be pretty cool to ignore his summoning conditions and just special summon him straight out of the field instantly. A 2600 beater just by banishing 1 card is pretty neat to have. And then 3 copies of Evil Hero Odessa Gold. As you could probably guess at this point, the other part of the big bad, the boss monsters for this deck, Evil Hero Malicious Bane. Evil Hero Odessa Gold actually comes in really clutch for this process. When you draw him, activate his effect to discard him to the graveyard and search Dark Calling. And then instantly, you have one half of the prerequisite to special summoning, a fusion summoning Malicious Bane out to the field instantly just by him being in the graveyard alone. All you would need is the level 5 or higher. And, I mean, to have one card be able to get the fusion card out to your hand and then being a part of the materials needed to get Malicious Bane out there, that is pretty freaking cool in my opinion. Moving on to the Vision Hero portion, running 2 copies of Ferris. Now, Ferris being the beginning point to the combo for the rest of the Vision Heroes and getting a lot more in turn. Simply activating effect, discard 1 card from hand, special summoning him out to the field. He then allows you to put 1 hero monster or 1 Vision Hero monster from your deck into your back row, which then would turn into 2 copies of Increase. I would put Increase into the back row. Pop Ferris to bring Increase up on the field, and then you would be able to special summon a Vision Hero monster out onto the field, which I run 3 copies of Vion. And Vion just simply being that if you normal or special summon him, you can send 1 hero monster from your deck to your graveyard, which is pretty cool that it's general, not specific to any type of hero, but just hero in general. And the cool thing about these 3 Vision Hero monsters is that they are very capable of getting monsters that you want or need in your graveyard or out onto the field. The range is limitless for whatever situation you're in, and you're being able to bounce back to get some bodies out on the field and or your big bosses. Next up, we will move to the Elementals, which will comprise most of this deck. 3 copies of Shadow Mist, a very important gal in this deck here. Shadow Mist having 2 effects, which you can use once per turn. You can use both of them once per turn. Which the combo for me I'd like to use has 2 different possibilities. One being when you special summon her, you can get Mass Change into your hand. You can then use Mass Change to get Dark Law out on the field, and then once she goes to graveyard, and it doesn't necessarily mean by fusion summon or anything like that, just in general, when Shadow Mist goes to graveyard, you can add 1 hero monster from your deck to your hand. So the ability is there to just keep pumping your chains and your flow is pretty cool with Shadow Mist there. And a part of that combo, 2 copies of Solid Soldier. It would be nice to have Solid Soldier in hand, so that way you can get Shadow Mist out there via special summon to get Mass Change. As well as being able to special summon a level 4 or lower hero monster from your hand to the field. As well as the combo for Solid Soldier is when you do get Mass Change from Shadow Mist, or just by having it in your hand, whatever, you can Mass Change Solid Soldier into Dian, and when he goes via spell effect to the graveyard, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Mass Change, just any spell effect, when he goes, you can special summon 1 hero in your graveyard. Yes, it does not specify anything elemental, evil, destiny, whatever. So it's pretty cool that if you could have either Plasma or let's say Honest Neos in your graveyard, once he goes, by spell effect, boom, instantly you got your normal big bads from the deck out on the field instantly. The next 3 copies of Stratos here, I feel like are very pivotal in the bounce back theme for this deck. This is a part of the survivability I talked about earlier. The Stratos being has 2 effects, and you can only use one of the 2. Either destroying spell and traps on the field up to the number of hero monsters you control except Stratos. So your ability to pop your opponent's back row and clear that out. Or you can add 1 hero monster from your deck to your hand. Again, that ability to just be general and pick any card you want, any hero monster from this profile, and get to your hand is pretty freaking sweet. Next, we have 2 copies of Liquid Soldier. Again, his ability to help you bounce back and or continue in such chains is pretty remarkable. Liquid Soldier being that only normal summon, cannot special summon him for his effect. You can target 1 level 4 or lower hero monster in your grave and special summon it to the field. So that could go in turn with Shadow Mist. If you have her in the grave, using it to search, let's say Solid Soldier from your deck and get him to your hand. Normal summon him, special summon her, get mass change. Boom, you've got a run that you can use for various amounts of chains. Another cool part about Liquid Soldier is that when he is sent to the graveyard or banished for fusion materials, he acts as a graceful charity. You can draw 2 cards and then discard 1. So again, that ability to draw new cards when he goes for materials as a fusion and able to have more in your hand, and then in turn again being able to have access from the graveyard by discarding is just remarkable. And then last but not least, big boy Honest Neos. I would say for him alone, his best is his quick effect. The fact that at any point in time you can quick effect discard Honest Neos from hand, pitch him to graveyard, you can add his 2500 ATK to any hero monster you have on the field. That is pretty freaking sweet, especially when you get into a tight scenario against a 3000 opponent, even up to 4000. Honest Neos can help pump over, if you have a 3000 monster out and you're going up against a 4000, Honest Neos, boom, you're in the clear for days. Now, the other cool part about Honest Neos is when you do use him and send him to your graveyard, or if he's just in your graveyard in general, the fact that he is level 6 or higher, his ability to be used for materials automatically qualifies you for a half. All right, and then not a part of the Hero series, but I do like to run 2 copies of Ash. I think every deck seems to have 2 or 3 copies of Ash in their deck. I mean, this is a love-hate relationship for everyone when it comes to Ash. Very, very capable in 3 big situations that could help stop your opponent and their flow or their chains. Moving on to the magic portion of the deck. 2 copies of Miracle Fusion. Your ability to get elemental hero fusion monsters out on the field just by simply banishing them from both the field or graveyard Having both is a very cool utility. 2 copies of Fusion Destiny. This is the thing I like to have for DPE, which this really doesn't affect DPE as he just recirculates himself. He's basically just a monster reborn in his effects. Really overpowered in a sense, but still really sweet to have. And the fact that all you have to do is simply just banish the materials from your hand or deck. So again, not limiting you to what's on the field or in your hand. You can just simply go from your hand or deck. Very awesome utility card. 3 copies of Dark Calling. This is the main thing that you want for Malicious Bane. And the only thing that you have to really do here is by banishing the materials on it from your hand or graveyard. Again, the theme here being not restricting you to one specific area to get your materials. 2 different types. 1 copy of Vision Fusion. I could hear a debate about having 2 of those, but as it's not really necessary from the others I just showed you, Vision Fusion at 1 has come in clutch sometimes. The thing that I like about most is that you can also use materials in your back row, in this case, aka the Vision Heroes. If you have increase in your back row, instantly, boom, Vision Fusion can use that materials in your back row and get you to the fusion monster that you need. 3 copies of Mass Change. We all know what Mass Change be about, getting to our masked fusion monsters, and it's simply just 1 monster to the attribute that you need, such as Dark Law. You just need a dark monster on the field, either aka Shadow Mist, Malicious, you name it. I have 3 copies of Emergency Call. Specifically, 1 Elemental Hero monster from deck to hand. 1 copy of Rhoda, just 1 level 4 or lower warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. So, getting your startup monsters for your chains and your flow. Copy of Graceful Charity. Pretty cool card to help with drawing 3 cards and then discarding 2. Again, for this deck to be able to run from your hand or graveyard is very potent. So you could easily just run chains by ditching cards from your hand to your graveyard that run from graveyard effects. Graceful Charity will do it. And then lastly, Favorite Hero. A very poignant card. I could probably see myself running 2 copies of that into the deck, as it's very powerful that when you equip to a level 5 or higher hero monster, and if you do control a field zone card, the equipped monster gains the attack equal to its original defense. So you get to buff that attack up from that monster's defense. And then also your opponent cannot target it with card effects. So instantly, boom, you've got a nice defensible shield from Favorite Hero. And then when you go into battle phase, though, and this is what's pretty cool, this is what brings you back to that first portion of that paragraph. When you go into battle phase, you can activate 1 field spell directly from your hand or deck. So instantly, you don't even have to worry about having your field zone out there when you equip Favorite Hero. Just run into battle phase, boom, field card out on the field, he gains the attack from his defense. And he's also can be targeted with card effects. And then after that field card zone activation, you can then dump Favorite Hero off of your card. You can discard him off, and it will give your hero monster a second attack. Pretty cool utility to have for any given scenario. Alright, moving on to the extra hero deck. We'll start with the links. First one being extra hero Dread Decimator. Not a crazy big effect type monster for stopping or negating or anything like that, but really good for buffing monsters out himself and monsters he points to by how many is in your graveyard. Very cool to be able to get over 3,000 and potentially 4,000 ATK opponents. Next up, we have Extra Hero Inferno Devicer. I find this being very key in the survivability theme and being able to bounce back as Link 2. You reveal one fusion hero monster from your extra deck, and if you do, you can add 2 of the fusion materials listed on that card with different names from your deck to your hand. So, let's say you have a fusion card in your hand, but no materials. Boom. Inferno Devicer, you get him out on the field. You can then get those materials into your hand and run into another fusion hero monster that you need. And then next, the last extra hero, Cross Crusader. I could argue to getting rid of Inferno Devicer at running 2 of Cross Crusader just because of his ability that when he's summoned, you can special summon 1 Destiny hero monster in your graveyard, aka Plasma. The ability to get Plasma out from the graveyard like nothing and just negating all of your opponent's effects from him and equipping, a big boss monster to Plasma is super key and sweet. Last of the links, I go with BLS. Very multi-purpose, rounded BA of a card. BLS being the one guy that we all love and trust in mini decks. Alright, moving on to the fusions. For the Mast, I have 2 copies of Dark Law. Him being, I would say, kind of like at this point, like second in command to DPE and Malicious Bane. His ability to have everything banished that would be sent to grave instead is pretty freaking cool. And the fact that when your opponent draws extra, you can, once per turn, pick 1 random card out of his hand, send it to the banish zone. Pretty awesome. Especially at the beginning if you want to lock someone out of if they're graveyard heavy. 1 copy of Masked Hero Divine Wind. Cannot be destroyed by battle, which is pretty cool in his effect. Secondly, that when he destroys a monster opponent by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can draw 1 card. So the fact that every monster up to 2,700 you can attack, send it to the graveyard, and just draw is pretty cool at locking them in. As well as that while he's on the field, your opponent can only declare your opponent can only attack with 1 monster during each battle phase. So again, kind of like locking them in and drawing them down. Last of the Masked Heroes is Dian, which normally would come from Solid Soldier. When this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower hero monster from your deck. So again, being able to recirculate out of your graveyard, Dian will help you do it. Moving on to the Elementals, we'll start with Absolute Zero. Very cool utility card. Just the fact that, especially if you're playing against someone who is a water-heavy deck, he gains 500 attack for each water monster on the field, except for himself. And then as well as when Absolute Zero leaves the field, he can destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So there, being able to be a potential board wiper, I would have Absolute Zero in this deck. Elemental Hero Great Tornado. Just the fact that he is a 2,000 attack, but when he is up on the field, all monsters that your opponent controls, their attack and defense gets cut in half. The whole time while he's out on the field, instantly. So anyone that's over 3 up to 4,000 ATK, Great Tornado is a great utility to bring them down so he can swing over them. Last of the elemental is Hero Sunrise. Pretty cool when he gets summoned. His effect is that you can search and retrieve Miracle Fusion. So very great utility for getting any of the other elemental heroes out on the field. And as well as while he is on the field, he gains 200 attack for each different attribute that you can control. And also, when your other hero monster declares an attack to your opponent, he can target one card in the field and destroy it. So there again, being able to target, destroy, and getting over someone that isn't affected, let's say by a back row card or whatever, you name it, he will help you get over it. All right, moving on to the last two here of the extra deck. First, we have DPE, 2 copies. Now, DPE is very pivotal and very well-rounded in the fact that he is basically a monster reborn and one part of his effects. While he is up on the field, monsters your opponent controls loses 200 attack for each hero card in your graveyard. So again, basing from your graveyard, the ability to get monsters or nerf your opponent is very key with DPE. And then as well as when he is destroyed by battle or card effects, DPE can quick effect give himself that monster reborn. By the beginning of the next standby, he just comes right back onto the field. Another great utility for DP is that you can target one card you control, and you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy them both. It's like a quick, dump to get rid of any card your opponent controls. And then last but not least, the bad boy himself, 2 copies of Malicious Bane, being attack and defense of 3,000. This bad boy cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. During your main phase, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to Malicious Bane. So the ability to just board wipe your opponent, and in turn, every monster that you board wipe, he gains 200 attack for each card that gets sent that way. Just a beautiful, awesome utilization by Malicious Bane. And the fact that if you could have both DP and Malicious Bane out on the field, I mean, you're set. You're set in stone. Well, thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I would greatly appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below about how you enjoyed it and if this deck profile is even worth a damn. Have a good day.